Feral by Night is a storytelling series of eerie tales and all the things that go bump in the night. I'm Papa G, and this is Feral by Night. Free episodes release every week, but premium members on Patreon or Buzzsprout can double their weekly stories with extra subscriber-only episodes. So turn the lights down and settle in. Some stories are better heard after dark. Lydia Morrow found the first tooth wrapped in tissue beneath a tray that was supposed to hold necklaces. She had brought the jewelry box home from her great-aunt Nettie's house because nobody else wanted it. The box was dark wood with a cracked mirror inside the lid, tiny brass feet, and 3 drawers that smelled like old perfume and cedar shavings. It looked like the kind of thing that should have held brooches, lockets, and costume pearls. It held teeth. The first one rolled out of the tissue and clicked against the kitchen table. Lydia froze with one hand still inside the drawer. It was yellowed at the root, but clean at the crown, the way a tooth looks when it has been kept dry for a long time. The tissue around it had been folded carefully, then tied with black thread. A paper label was tucked beneath the thread. Lydia leaned closer and read the name written in faded blue ink. Edna Lark, Upper Molar, 1969. She pushed back from the table so fast the chair legs scraped the floor. For a moment, she just stared at it, waiting for her brain to turn it into something else. A bead, a broken bit of shell, some strange old charm. But it was a tooth, and there were more bundles in the drawer behind it. By the time she opened the second drawer, her hands were cold. There were no earrings, no rings, no bracelets. Every little compartment had tissue bundles stacked inside it. Some were tied with black thread. Some were tied with red. Each one had a label. Lydia counted 13 before she made herself stop. All the labels had women's names. Ruth Bexley, left canine, 1974. Annie Pell, wisdom tooth, 1982. Mavis Cole, front tooth, 1991. The dates made it worse. They made the teeth feel less like an accident and more like a record. Lydia closed the drawer and sat there with the box in front of her. The kitchen was bright with afternoon sun, and her phone was on the table beside her, and everything around her looked normal. That was part of the problem. The box didn't belong in that room. It looked like something that had been carried out of a locked drawer before anyone had decided what to do with it. She called her mother first. Her mother didn't answer, so Lydia sent a picture of the open drawer. A minute later, her phone rang. Her mother sounded awake and frightened before Lydia said a word. She told Lydia not to touch anything else. Then she said Aunt Nettie had always kept things she shouldn't have kept. Lydia asked what that meant. Her mother said Nettie had done work for women in the neighborhood years ago. Not paid work anyone talked about openly. People came to her back door with problems they didn't want inside a church or a doctor's office. Bad husbands, sick children, dead relatives who wouldn't leave them alone. Sometimes Nettie asked for hair, fingernail clippings, a bit of cloth, or a tooth if one had come loose. Lydia said these didn't look like children's teeth. Her mother went quiet for too long. Then she told Lydia to put the box outside and wait until morning to decide what to do with it. She said some things got worse after dark. Lydia almost laughed, but she didn't. Her mouth had gone dry. She carried the jewelry box to the back porch and set it on the old iron table beside a pot of dead basil. The moment she let go of it, one of the drawers slid open by itself. Only only an inch. Lydia stood there, watching that narrow black gap. She told herself the drawer was loose. Old wood swelled and shifted. Houses settled. Things moved. Then the tissue inside the drawer rustled. She grabbed the box, shoved the drawer shut, and carried it to the shed at the back of the yard. She set it on a shelf between garden gloves and a half-empty bag of potting soil. Then she shut the shed door and hooked the latch. She checked it twice. That night, she ate cereal for dinner because she didn't want to stand near the kitchen table. She kept seeing the tooth roll across the wood. She kept seeing that neat little label, as if Aunt Nettie had been proud of her record-keeping. At 9:30, Lydia brushed her teeth and noticed a soreness in her lower jaw. It wasn't bad, just a dull ache near the back, the kind of thing a person ignores because thinking about dental work is expensive all by itself. She rinsed, looked in the mirror, and opened her mouth wide. Nothing looked wrong. Then something clicked in the hallway. Lydia turned off the bathroom light and stood still. The sound came again. A small wooden click, then another. It sounded like a drawer being opened and closed, very slowly, by someone trying not to wake the house. She walked down the hall with her phone flashlight on. The living room was empty. The front door was locked. The kitchen was dark except for the green light on the microwave. The jewelry box was sitting on the kitchen table. Lydia didn't move for several seconds. The shed key was still on the hook by the back door. The back door was still locked from the inside. Her shoes were still on the mat, clean and dry. The top drawer of the box was open. One tissue bundle sat in the middle of the table, separate from the others. Lydia didn't want to touch it, but she saw the label from where she stood. Nettie Crow, lower molar, 2026. Aunt Nettie had died 3 days earlier. Lydia backed away until her shoulder hit the refrigerator. Her jaw ached again, sharper this time, and she pressed her hand to her face. She thought about calling her mother back, then thought about what she would say. The box came back from the shed. Aunt Nettie's tooth is in it. My own mouth hurts now. It sounded ridiculous, and the box sat there like it knew that. She slept in the guest room with the door locked because it was farther from the kitchen. At some point after midnight, she woke to the smell of cedar and old perfume. It was strong enough to make her eyes water. The box was on the dresser across from the bed. Lydia sat up fast. Her phone showed 2:14 in the morning. The room was dark, but she could see the shape of the box in the blue light from the window. The lid was open. The cracked mirror inside it reflected a thin piece of her bed, but not her face. Then the music started. It was faint and warped, the way music sounds when it comes from a toy that has almost run down. Lydia hadn't noticed a music mechanism earlier. She hadn't heard anything when she carried the box home. Now the jewelry box played a slow, tinny tune that sounded like it had been trapped inside the wood for years. The third drawer eased open. Lydia got out of bed and turned on the lamp. The music stopped the second the light came on. The drawer stayed open. Inside was a flat packet wrapped in yellowed tissue. It was larger than the tooth bundles and tied with red thread. Lydia picked it up with 2 fingers and unfolded it on the dresser. A small stack of photographs slid out. They were old drugstore prints, mostly women standing on Aunt Nettie's back porch. Some smiled. Some looked worried. Some looked like they had been crying before the picture was taken. Lydia recognized one woman from a framed photo that used to sit in Nettie's hallway. Her name had been Mavis Cole. In the photograph, Mavis stood with one hand near her mouth, as if something hurt. The last photo was new. It showed Lydia at her own kitchen table that afternoon, sitting in front of the open jewelry box. She hadn't taken that picture. No one had been in the house with her. Behind photographed Lydia, in the dark reflection of the kitchen window, Aunt Nettie's shape stood just inside the room. Her face was blurred, but her mouth was clear. It was open, and several of her teeth were missing. Lydia dropped the photo and ran to the bathroom. She turned on every light she passed. In the mirror, her face looked pale and sweaty. She opened her mouth and checked the aching tooth again. This time, the gum around it was dark. She called her mother again. The call went straight to voicemail. She called twice more. Nothing. Then a text came through from her mother's number. It said to return what was loose before the box picked for her. Lydia stared at the message until the screen dimmed. She didn't ask what it meant. She knew enough. She had seen enough of the labels. If the box held teeth as keepsakes, then it wanted one from her too. Maybe Aunt Nettie had fed it for years with other women's pain. Maybe she had kept it satisfied with things already lost. But now Nettie was gone, and the box had come to the next woman who opened it. Lydia went back to the kitchen and took the box outside. She didn't bother with the shed. She carried it straight to the trash bin at the end of the driveway. She shoved it inside, slammed the lid, and stood there in her robe and bare feet until she heard the truck on the next street. She waited as the garbage truck came around the corner. She watched the mechanical arm lift the bin and dump everything into the back. For the first time all night, she breathed. The truck pulled away. Lydia turned toward the house. The jewelry box was on the porch. It sat in front of the door with the lid open and the mirror facing her. Lydia's jaw throbbed hard enough to make her knees bend. She tasted blood. She put her hand to her mouth, and something small and hard moved under her tongue. She spat into her palm. A tooth lay there, wet and dark at the root. For a few seconds, Lydia couldn't make a sound. She looked at the tooth in her hand, then at the box on the porch. The drawers were closed now. The lid waited open like a mouth. She thought about leaving. She thought about getting in the car and driving until sunrise. But the tooth was already out. The box had already taken what it wanted. Running with it in her hand felt worse than giving it back. So Lydia went inside and got a piece of tissue from the hall closet. She wrapped the tooth with shaking fingers. She didn't tie it with thread. She didn't write her name. She set the bundle inside the top drawer and shoved it closed. The house went quiet. The pain in her jaw faded almost at once. That scared her more than the pain had. It felt like the box had accepted payment. Lydia stayed awake until morning in the living room chair. The jewelry box sat on the coffee table where she could watch it. Nothing moved, nothing opened, no music played. At 7, her mother finally called. Lydia answered before the first ring finished. Her mother sounded confused and said she hadn't sent any text messages the night before. She had gone to bed with her phone charging in the kitchen. She asked Lydia what happened. Lydia looked at the box and told her mother she had lost a tooth. Her mother started crying. She said Nettie had lost one the week before she died. She said every woman who kept the box had lost one before the box settled in. Then she said something Lydia didn't want to hear. She said the box never stayed quiet unless it had a keeper. Lydia didn't answer. Across the room, the top drawer opened half an inch. After her mother hung up, Lydia wrapped the jewelry box in a towel and carried it upstairs to the closet in the spare bedroom. She put it on the highest shelf behind winter blankets and old tax folders. She told herself she would find someone who knew what to do, someone who understood these things, someone who could bury it, burn it, bless it, or take it far enough away that it couldn't find the house again. For 2 weeks, the box stayed quiet. Then Lydia noticed the names. They appeared first on scraps of paper she didn't remember writing on. A name on the back of a grocery receipt. Another on the edge of an envelope. A third written faintly in steam on the bathroom mirror after a shower. Women's names, some old, some new, none of them familiar. One morning, she woke with the taste of cedar in her mouth and found the jewelry box on the dresser again. The lid was open. The cracked mirror faced the bed. The top drawer was pulled out all the way, and every tissue bundle inside had been arranged in a neat row. Lydia's own bundle was there among them. At least she thought it was hers. She picked it up carefully and unfolded the tissue. Her tooth was inside, dry now and yellow at the root. The paper had been tied with red thread she had never used. A label had been added in the same faded blue handwriting as all the others. Lydia Morrow, lower molar, 2026. She put it down and saw a second bundle beside it. This one was new. The tissue was fresh and white. The thread was black. Lydia hadn't seen it before. She hadn't put it there. Her hands shook as she turned the label toward the light. It had her mother's name on it. Downstairs, Lydia's phone began to ring. She didn't move toward it right away. She kept staring at the little white bundle in the drawer, trying not to understand what it meant. The phone rang again, then stopped. In the quiet after it stopped, the music box inside the jewelry case began to play. Lydia reached for the drawer, meaning to shut it, but the cracked mirror inside the lid caught her face. Her reflection was smiling before she was. Then, slowly, the reflection opened its mouth. One by one, the teeth inside that reflected mouth began to loosen. Feral by Night is the sister podcast to The Feral Folklorist. You can find information for both podcasts at feralfolklorist.com. If you'd like more Feral by Night each week, premium members on Patreon or Buzzsprout get extra subscriber-only episodes that don't appear on the public feed. You can become a patron at patreon.com/PapaG or subscribe to the Buzzsprout premium membership options. And if you're ever in the market for metaphysical supplies, our store, Aromagees Botanica, has been weaving magic for over 25 years. That's over at aromagees.com.